If you're already proficient with Linkies track weaves, check out our retightening demonstration. You'll be able to freshen up your client's installation in a fraction of the time. To perform a retighten, you'll need the following tools: combs, clips for control, your Linkies. You will need a Linkies opener and a closer, the pulling tool to pull the hair into the Linkies, your shears, and of course you'll need your weaving needle and your thread. Normally, to perform a weave, we would start at the bottom and build our way up to the top, but for a retighten, we're going to start at the top and work our way down. Danny's first track starts here, and that's where we'll begin our tighten. The first step is to remove the weft and the stitches from this track. And we're going to do that by just clipping along that top row of stitches. Be sure that you're not cutting any of the hair. Sometimes there will be hair along there. It's been in for about a month and a half so far. So she's due. So we're trying to keep all this regrowth out of the way. Okay, with that track removed, the next step is to remove any thread. If you've got knots around your hair, just come back through with your shears and clip those out, making sure that you're clipping just along the direction of the hair. That way you're not cutting any of the natural hair. With all of the threads out of the way, the next step is to come through with your openers and pop open your Linkies rings. Now we're ready to do the tightening process. We're going to go through and find this first loop with the ring here, and then find the two legs that correspond to that loop. And we're simply going to pull that tighter so that it's down to the scalp. Then we're going to move to the next ring, which is this loop here. We're going to find the tail that comes from this side and the tail that comes from that side. And we're going to pull that down and adjust that down to the scalp. This ring here is our connector, and we're not going to worry about that one just yet. Same thing across the remainder of the track. So this is our loop here, finding the two sides and pulling it down. Once we've tightened our base, we're going to come back through with our closers. We're going to hold the ring in position, giving a little bit of looseness in there so it's not too tight, and crimp it down. We're going to repeat that process, and then we'll go back through and do our connecting row. Not every client is going to be a great candidate for a retighten. Some people have too much new growth at the base, or they have too much breakage and their hair becomes too frizzy and too unkempt to be able to perform this process safely. so this row would need to be removed entirely and combed out. However, with Danny's hair, because it's very healthy and she doesn't have any breakage, or her new growth is not, she doesn't have a ton of small pieces coming in, she is a perfect candidate for this type of service. I don't recommend doing more than one tightening process at a time. So if you did a new installation, you could do one tighten, and then you'd want to take the rings out and then comb out the hair, then put them back in. Once all your rings are in place, you're ready to sew the weft right back into where it just came out of. To resew your wefts, you're going to add your first stitch straight into the wefts to lock your thread in place. Next, you're going to pick up those legs that are moving forward and pull them straight back. Place your weft over the row and sew underneath the hair and rings and around your track, directly over your anchor stitch. Next, we're going to sew out to the corner and then back to center. Make sure that you tack the very tiny bits of this corner down. That's going to give you a smooth transition. Right now I'm getting a little bit of the top hair coming down, so I'm going to move that clip. Make sure all those crosshairs are out of the way. Going to continue sewing towards the other side. Once I get to the other end, same as the first side, we want to make sure that we're tucking all of those extra pieces underneath. So that we don't have any cowlicks. So before I sew too far out to the corner, I'm going to take the pieces that are pushing their way out from underneath. I'm going to hold them underneath and I'm going to go around them. And that'll basically fold them so that they're directionally going the other way underneath this weft. I'm going to sew this tiny bit of the corner. Move a little bit away from the end and then tie off my thread. Do a simple knot. Pull off, leaving the tails. Using my pulling needle, I'm going to go underneath the weft, wrapping it around, pulling the thread underneath, and then tying my knot around the entire weft. And now we're ready to clip our tails and move on to our next row. So for our next row, same as the first step, cut that weft away from your track. You want to be really gentle when you're pulling on those finer threads, so take your time during this cutting step. Okay, now that we've got the hair removed, I'm going to pull up any crosshairs out of the way. And those are just the hairs that would have been kind of tangled in there. Now we're ready to go ahead and open our rings. When you do your tighten process, if at any point the hair at the base starts to look frizzy or looks like it's going to look backcombed when you're done, then this is not the right spot for it. You'll need to take that ring entirely out and redo it. So we need to identify where our first loop is. This one looks like it was just holding it over as a single, so that's not a loop. So we'll want to move over to this one. It's a full loop. So I'm going to find the two legs that form the X, and I'm going to pull that up to the scalp. Moving over to the next one, same deal. Okay, for our first row, we just need to come back through, lift a little bit, make sure you have a little bit of room to wiggle, crimp down. Same with the next ring, crimp down. Make sure you have a little bit of that wiggle movement because that's going to be really important when we stitch that down. Since this looks like it has kind of come loose here, I'm just going to simply redo this. So I'm going to pull that end ring out, and I'm going to redo that. So we're going to take that section of hair that I just removed from the ring, and we're going to use that to pull through the neighboring ring, creating a new X shape. Since this hair should have been incorporated, I'm going to go back through and make sure that we pick up all of it. Now we can tighten that one down, its neighbor, and the next one. Now we're ready to close all of these rings. With your thread already attached to your weft, we're going to pull this first piece of hair over, placing our weft over the track, going over, under, and around the hair that was sticking out that way. And we're going to cinch our first stitch to lock down our weft. Remember to go from this stitch out to the tiniest corner and tack all these pieces down. Okay, now that we're at the other corner, same thing. Push that hair underneath and hold that up, making sure that when you do your pass underneath, that hair isn't creating a cowlick on this back end. Stitch out to the corner, then back in towards the center, tie off, and then clip your threads away. Continue working each row until every row has been retightened, and then proceed to styling the hair. A tighten gives you the benefit of refreshing your style in a fraction of the time. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, make sure that you subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a beat. And if you need products for your projects, check out doctoredlocks.com for all your hair extension needs.